Okay, with this interview, noticed how relaxed and happy she is. They both know they're doing something bad. You can see it written all over their face. It's like, and this is an evil Vladimir Putin clone. That could be a Megyn Kelly clone, or it might be the real Megyn Kelly. She obviously does not like Russia, or at least she doesn't like the real Vladimir Putin. And either that or she's an extortion victim. But the whole purpose for this interview was to get Vladimir to state that he doesn't ride a bear, because I have made a YouTube video where I showed a photo of Vladimir on a bear, and it's not Photoshop, it's real. And see, look at this. See? Look at that. And the whole purpose for setting up this interview was to get him to say that, so that they can discredit him as my significant other, and also to make him look like a proud scumbag. I have actually made a transcript of the Vladimir Putin, Megyn Kelly NBC interview that took place on March 1st and 2nd, 2018 in Kaliningrad, Russia. And I'm commenting on how you can tell that there's some very evil Jesuit hanky-panky going on in this video. And I actually created a web page totally devoted to this project. And what I did is I went to Vladimir Putin's official presidential website, and I noticed he has a transcript of this this television interview there. And the transcript is obviously done by a traitor, somebody who's guilty of treason against the Russian government. Because I'll point out why I know this. First of all, the Russians know that I am Vladimir Putin's love interest. I have been his love interest since 2001. So it appears that the Loree McBride Jesuits have infiltrated Russia, and they may be behind all this, all this stuff that's happening in London now with this spy who just got poisoned. This is nothing new. Whenever the Jesuits want to frame Vladimir, they always end up making it look like he's trying to kill his opponents. And they frame him with these crimes. He's not the kind of man who does these things. Anyways, what I wanted you to do, I wanted you to read the interview. And what I did was I watched several versions of it on different YouTube channels, and one the official NBC channel, another one by Russia Insight. The Russia Insight YouTube channel seems to be heavily infiltrated with Jesuits, though NBC, I think, is pretty much heavily infiltrated with Jesuits too. But what I did was I did see one interview that I felt was pretty accurate, where it was very impromptu, and Megyn and Vladimir were together, and the translator was translating as Vladimir was speaking in English, and that seemed like the Vladimir I know. And what I did is I actually typed. I'm a very fast typist. I type about 80 to 90 words a minute. And I have very good English skills. That's why I'm a writer. So I typed it and I transcribed the whole thing. I did that yesterday and today. It was a lot of work. And I want you to read it. And what I typed is in black and white. And what I copied and pasted from the official website for the Russian president is in red. And you're going to see that there are some discrepancies between what the translator at his official website wrote and what I wrote. They're pretty much the same, but there are some differences. And one thing that I noticed is that the translator apparently had a very good command of the English language, and he knew how to word Vladimir's conversation in a manner to make Vladimir look like he's a liar, like he's dodging something, and like he's not who he appears to be, like he's a shallow playboy, maybe secret murderer kind of a guy. And I know this because I'm a writer in the English language. But Vladimir, he understands English. I know this because I have conversed with him, and he understands me when I talk to him in English, but he has a hard time speaking in English or writing in English. His English is very choppy, but he understands English very well. And I noticed in the interview that they used a translator and they made him appear like his English wasn't too good. And he's kind of shy about using his English in a official American news broadcast, but he's really, his English is pretty respectable, and he has quite a large vocabulary too. So anyways, the translator for the March 2nd interview seemed to be accurate on Vladimir. So I want you to go to my site and read what I wrote. What I wrote is in black and white, and what the translator for the official Russian president official website wrote is in red. And just notice that those of you who speak English as your native tongue, you're going to be able to pick up that this translator is trying to defame Vladimir. You can tell. He used trickery with the words to make Vladimir appear a certain way. It was almost like he was writing a fictional character for a novel and creating dialogue for Vladimir and for Megyn Kelly. He actually Megyn was very rude when she was speaking with Vladimir, and this translator kind of softened her up and actually made Vladimir appear like he was kind of sinister and shallow, and that he's a big liar. And he pulled it off by playing tricks with the language, by making Vladimir appear like he was hedgy and kind of weaseling around things by his use of the English language. And you'll be able to see that when you read the transcript of the impromptu translation was the real Vladimir, and I have that in black. And then compare that with what's in red, and you're going to be able to see what this tricky Jesuit Russian translator did. Okay, and the March 1st, 2018 interview, I didn't transcribe that one, but in that one, it seemed to have a very heavy Vladimir clone presence, with the clone looking goofy, shallow, definitely not presidential. They apparently got some technology where they're able to blend the real Vladimir in with the clone in a video performance. And so the only way you can tell is to focus on the eyes. The clone has a really shallow look coming out of his eyes. And anybody with an emotional IQ is going to be able to pick this up. I have a genius emotional IQ. And Vladimir, the clone actually went out and said, I've seen photos of me riding a bear. I have not ridden a bear yet, but there are such photos already. Vladimir would never say this because this discredits my YouTube channel. Vladimir's number 2 on my marriage list. And because I have a YouTube video about him on his bear, and I got the picture up there, which I got from my man. And so I actually transcribed the interview, what I heard, what seemed like the real Vladimir to me, and the one that I trusted, and that's in black. And my transcription more accurately depicts Vladimir's personality than the red section, what I copied and pasted from the Russian president's official website. Like I said, the translator used for the audio in the second part for the March 2nd interview did not seem like a Jesuit and really seemed to capture the real Vladimir in his translation. However, they seem to have inserted the clone like in and out in both videos. So the clone the Jesuits try to depict as Alina Kabaeva type of womanizer. And the official translator also changed some of what Megyn said. And one thing that's especially glaring is she was accusing the United States of having a $1.5 million cyber conspiracy. And the translator said it was $2.5 billion. I think he did that on purpose. Either that or he's a lousy translator. So I transcribed what I heard word for word. And, Vladimir understands English really well. And I know this because I talk and write to him a lot in English. He's got trouble speaking English, but he doesn't have trouble understanding it. So I believe the lapse in time for translation, as depicted in Part 1, March 1st, 2018, may not be necessary for him. And whether that part about his excessive need for a translator was fake or not, where they all had all these pauses in there, we had to wait for the translator, I don't know, but that's a possibility. The Jesuits may have inserted all these translator pauses throughout part one so that they could make the fake part, where the clone is saying he never rode a bear, to make that seem more believable. So, and I also put notes, and I want you to read this transcript, and you'll get a real education just by the way this man talks into the difference between the real Vladimir and his clone. So you can see, but you can really tell when you watch the video and look in the eyes, man. Those are two different souls there. One soul is a manly alpha male committed to his woman with moral standards. And then there's one who's a beta male, kind of hedgy and a playboy type. That's the clone. Okay? And the clone has this real shallow look to his eyes. So just check out my transcript. It'll be underneath this video. I put notes in there where I'm commenting on what I've noticed during this interview, and I'm giving you my perspective on the Megyn Kelly, Vladimir Putin interview. This is a real picture. This is not Photoshop. I got it around 2013 from my men. Okay, now take a look at the still shot for the video. That is the clone. See how goofy and shallow he is?
Русские что? Русских 146 миллионов человек. Ну и что?
In Russian, so what?
What have you done to satisfy yourself of that fact? What have you done to satisfy yourself of that fact?
А что вы сделали для того, чтобы довольствоваться этим фактом, который вы сейчас назвали?
Каким?
What have you done to satisfy yourself that it wasn't Russians? That you're suggesting maybe it
Что вы
was
сделали, чтобы
Americans,
убедить
maybe
себя,
it
что
was
это были не
French? What have
русские?
you
Вы
done to
сказали, может быть,
satisfy
это
yourself that
американцы,
the
может
13
быть, это были
Russian nationals
французы?
who've just been
Что вы
indicted,
сделали,
those
чтобы
3
понять,
Russian
что
companies,
на самом
including, as
деле
you pointed out,
эти
some of your close
13
friends,
человек,
were not behind this?
включая
This has caused
ваших
an
друзей,
international
что вы сделали,
incident.
чтобы убедиться, что они не...
Каким?
Which?
What have you done to satisfy yourself that it wasn't Russians? That you're suggesting maybe it was Americans, maybe it was the French. What have you done to satisfy yourself that the 13 Russian nationals who have just been indicted, those 3 Russian companies, including, as you point out, some of your close friends, were not behind this? This has caused an international incident.
были связаны в этом,
Я знаю,
замешаны в
что
этом.
они не представляют российское государство, российскую власть. А что они делали конкретно, я понятия не имею. И не знаю, чем они руководствовались, если они даже что-то делали. Пусть тогда наши американские коллеги не просто там в прессе что-то рассказывают. Пусть дадут нам материалы, конкретные, с обоснованием. Мы готовы будем рассмотреть и поговорить на эту тему. Но знаете, что я бы хотел сказать?
That would be great.
Я знаю,
I know that they do not represent the Russian state, the Russian authorities. What they did specifically, I have no idea. I do not know what they were guided by. Even if they did do something, let our American colleagues, instead of just talking in the press, provide us with some evidence, something concrete, based on something, and data. We'll be prepared to review them and discuss this topic.
Will you extradite them to the United States?
Было прекрасно. Вы обеспечите экстрадицию в США?
никогда. Россия вообще своих граждан никому не выдает. Так же, как и Соединенные Штаты. Вы-то разве кому-нибудь выдаете своих граждан?
That would be great. Will you extradite them to the United States?
Никогда.
Never. Russia does not extradite its citizens to anyone, just like the United States. Does the United States extradite its citizens to anyone? That's for starters. Second, I do not see that they did something illegal.
Нам. We will not be able to communicate with you tomorrow. We will not be able to communicate with you tomorrow.
Before the forum?
До форума.
Вообще не сможем, на форуме не сможем.
No, we will not be able to communicate during the forum.
What do you mean?
Как это?
Мы будем вами любоваться.
We will look at you. I will stare at you. You're gorgeous. You're gorgeous.
I have a way of making myself heard.
А я знаю, как сделать так, чтобы меня слушали. Как? What was the way?
I'm a loudmouth.
Я умею очень громко говорить.
Хорошо.
Okay, here in the translation, it says $2.5 billion at the official website for the Russian president.
The issue, after all, was the interference by Russia, as the Russian state, in the internal political affairs of the United States. Nothing has changed since you and I talked last time in St. Petersburg. Some names have popped up, so what? They could just as easily have been the names of some Americans who are sitting here and interfering in your own political process. this hasn't changed anything.
But it wasn't Americans, it was Russians. And it was hundreds of people, a monthly budget of $1.25 million, all designed to attack the United States in a cyber warfare campaign. You're up for